Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Desiree Duffy, and I'm your host of the Books That Make You show. And today we're talking about books that make you get a new perspective on how we, as a society, especially in the U.S., house and care for folks with dementia. We have an aging population. 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and that number is going to grow. How do we care for and house them? What should we be doing now to prepare for the future? Not only for our parents and maybe grandparents, but ourselves one day. Larry Carlson is our guest. He is the author of Avandell, Reimagining the Dementia Experience. Now, he is a retired president and CEO, the retired president and CEO of United Methodist Communities, which is UMC. Before landing at UMC, Larry worked for two very caring not-for-profit, faith-based organizations, the United Church of Christ and the Franciscan Sisters of Chicago. Additionally, he was the director of housing at the Hebrew Rehabilitation Center for the aged in Boston. Wow, a lot of things that you've done in your life, Larry, including writing this book. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it and how it addresses, especially the housing and folks that are living with dementia?
Sure. So, after 40 years in the senior living industry, I came to the conclusion that there was a better way to provide a dignified and meaningful life for those individuals dealing with Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis. And I'm, talking about those not only with the diagnosis, but their families and their caregivers. And, we really felt that we needed a new solution on housing family members, living with that dementia. Yeah. And I was inspired when my wife and I went to Amsterdam a few years ago and visited a place called the Reexamine, which is the first dementia village in the world. And it was really eye-opening for me to sort of witness how the difference in that village concept and small house environment and normalizing life for people who have dementia diagnosis made such a traumatic impact in their ability to live an authentic life while dealing with the diagnosis.
Yeah. I mean, that is part of the thing is in the US, we treat it so much differently. And that's wonderful that you were inspired by your visit to Holland, to Netherlands. Can we talk about some of the costs that are associated with this in caring for people in the United States? Can you give us the laydown?
Yeah, well, sure. By 2022, Alzheimer's and other dementias will cost the nation about $321 billion, and by 2050, these costs could reach nearly $1 trillion just for the care.
Wow. And what kind of mortality rates are we looking at?
Yeah, so 1 in 3 seniors die from Alzheimer's or another dementia, and it kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. I mean, it's really significant. I don't think people really realize it. And yet, the amount of money that is done on research is minuscule compared to, other big killers, shall we say.
Yeah. Well, I think there's unfortunately the attitude that once you get so old, something's going to happen. So you have less money that goes into the research and everything that goes along with it. Really, when it boils down to it, there's just a handful of real big diseases. And one of them is going to take you out, chances are, unless you get hit by a bus or you just happen to get something else. You have cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, so there's really, and Alzheimer's is up there. It's just that if something else doesn't get to you first, it's probably going to be the thing that takes you out in the end.
Yeah, well, sure. But, we need to talk about quality of life while you're dealing with a diagnosis. And, right now, the institutional model of care, puts people in a locked ward. We say you can't do this, you can't do that. And I just feel like we need to normalize life for people who are dealing with the diagnosis and give them capacity to express themselves with the kinds of things and the kinds of activities that brought them meaning throughout their entire life. And we need to be saying yes, not no. So in the village concept, we're building a secure village, and people are able to walk around inside the secure environment, and they're able to go outside the house and go for a walk and go to the butterfly garden, go to the barn and see the goats. Let's plan what we want for lunch. Let's go to the grocery store and pick up those supplies and come back. Let's prepare together. We're only going to be living in a group of 7 people within each household, which is more family scale. And so it's really, that's normal. I mean, we all experience the weather. We all go to the grocery store. We all plan our meals. Well, why do we take that away from people just because they have dementia? Because that's what brought them meaning before. So why wouldn't that continue to bring them meaning now?
Yeah.
And the other concept that we have really zeroed in on our programming is really trying to reduce and minimize the distress that people feel when they have an Alzheimer's diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is they can't articulate what's bothering them or what they need. And so what happens is a lot of times they might use a word, act out, right? And then people say, well, okay, we have to control the behavior. And so then they start talking about, well, let's give them drugs to do that. And, let's sedate them or let's distract them. I'm like, no. We need to know our residents well enough that we can understand what that distress might be. And then when the distress is minimized, the behaviors don't manifest. We found this over and over again. I can give you a couple of good examples.
Sure.
So we had a resident in one of our current buildings, and he was a night security guard for a hotel. And the last thing he did before he went home at night was to check the doors, check the windows, make sure everything's locked, everything's secure, and then he went home at night. And so our staff, because they knew this resident so well, they said, let's walk around with him at the end of the day and do exactly that. Let's check the doors, check the windows, to make sure the shades are down. And guess what? His nighttime behaviors disappeared.
I love that story.
Yeah. And we had another example of a guy. He liked to sort of treat everybody. And so every night at dinner, he would say to the staff, I'll pick up the tab, just give me the check. And they would, the normal reaction is, well, no, Mr. Jones, this is your home. The meal comes with it. You don't need to pay for it. And he would get all agitated because that's what he wanted to do. So the staff, knowing this, said to the family, why don't you bring in a defunct credit card that has his name on it? And at nighttime, they said, oh, Mr. Jones, we'll take your credit card whenever you're ready. And so here's my credit card. And guess what? The agitation disappeared. And it sounds sort of simplistic, but unless the staff know thy resident, which is sort of our mantra, know thy resident, if they know them well enough, they can connect those dots and minimize that distress. And then we're not using psychotropic drugs and we're not using distraction, and people feel engaged and people are happy. And isn't that what we want to do no matter what the diagnosis is?
Absolutely. I love the philosophy that you have behind Avandell. And, the demand, as I understand it, for direct care workers, the roles such as nurses and home, you touched on it earlier too, people that are providers, that's actually projected to grow. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the demand for caregivers is going to grow like 40% in the next 5 years. And yet, just coming out of the pandemic, like, where'd everybody go? It's like everybody's got a help wanted sign in front of their place. Right now, there just aren't enough people who either are willing, able, or even exist, I guess, to provide that care. And so it's going to be a real challenge to sort of figure this out.
Yeah, but it sounds like working in one of your facilities is probably a little bit different than what most people would.
It is. And let me tell you why. Because when people come to a place like Avandell or United Methodist Communities in this case, because Avandell hasn't been built yet, they come with a personal mission because they're making a difference in a person's life. And because we've brought, empowered the staff to, know thy resident and make those changes and make those suggestions, because they feel empowered to do that, they feel that they're making a personal difference in someone's life. And so out of all of the product lines that we operate at United Methodist Communities, our department that has the least turnover is in our memory support area. Wow. And I think it's because of that, because they feel they're making that difference, and because they're not just told do this, do this, do this. They're deciding what's going to be relevant and impactful for that person's life, and they know that they're making a difference, and that's why people want to work for UMC.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, with the village model, can you contrast that a little bit more with that home model?
The at-home model or at the institutional model?
The home model is what I was asking.
Yeah, so a lot of times people say, "Well, I want to stay in my house for as long as possible." And certainly, why not, right? But a lot of times, what happens at home is that people become socially isolated, and so here again, unless they have the capacity to bring in things that are going to stimulate this person's imagination and intellect at that level, it becomes increasingly difficult. And the other piece is, families find it irrespective of how much resources they have, it's really hard to take care of someone 24/7 who has a dementia diagnosis. And so at some point, the family usually comes to a point of inflection where, like, it's just not tenable anymore. I mean, they just can't do it. And so now they're looking for a place to place their loved one, whether it be in a typical memory support community, pretty much like we run at our full service communities at UMC, or what we're going to be offering at Avandell.
Right, right. That's the thing. I know so many people who have gone through this, and you can tell it wears on them, and there's guilt involved with it because they want to keep mom or dad at home.
And in some cases, mom or dad have made them promise, "Don't ever put me in the home. I want to stay at home, but don't put me in the home," right? And so the family feel a tremendous amount of guilt as that they realize that they can't do it anymore, but they made this promise, and it's very conflicting for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. And then the idea too within your book of, putting residents in their little area or in their little place. It's like you're putting them away when you talk about something that's more of a facility.
Well, yeah, because they're usually a locked ward, as nice as they might be, and they can't go out that door, they can't do this, and with the village concept, the whole space becomes their domain, and they can go out. And so each house functions autonomously, and then every 4 houses function as a neighborhood. The 15 houses at Avandell will function as a village, and you can go there just like you normally would, but it's a protected and safe environment to do that.
Yeah, I love the visual that you're giving me with this right now, with the little houses and the communities. And if you don't mind, feel free to paint that picture a little further. Is there gardening? What kind of activities do they have? What kind of, is there a little store, that kind of thing?
So the centerpiece of the village is the town center. And within the town center, there's a, multi-purpose room, which we'll be able to use for, big events, as well as worship. There's a bistro in the grocery store, post office, and administrative kinds of things going on in the town center. Then there's another building in the middle of the whole complex that's called the Community Activity Pavilion. And in there we have our health club, our beauty shop, and club rooms. Because it's normal to leave the house and go to your club, or normal to leave your house and go to the beauty shop. And so even in the wintertime, when it's snowing outside, if someone says they want to go outside for a walk, sure, put your coat on and go outside and sit on the bench, feel the sun on your face, talk to a passerby and say, how's the day? You can't do that in a normal institutional setting because you're inside the locked ward. And many times they're, really can't even experience the weather. Even, it's normal to experience the weather, even in New Jersey, right? Right. But me being the administrator, I'm still going to make sure we have heated sidewalks because I want to make sure we're not, having any ice and, because you have to do that whole risk management thing.
Oh yeah. You don't want people falling down and stuff.
I don't want people falling down, but you have to give people access to normalcy. So in the summertime, let's go over and see we're going to have a barn, we're going to have a greenhouse, and we're going to have goats and sheep. So let's go over and see the sheep. maybe somebody's going to have an inclination that they sort of want to help care for them, or maybe they're just coming by to see them. And in the other part of it with the village is there are so many excuses, or not excuses, so many places where when families come to visit, that there are destinations that they can go and sort of enjoy what's going on. So, typically the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they don't want to come to a nursing home. They're, depressing, and there's just, a lot of old people, and it's, they don't want to do it. But, at Avandell, well, let's go visit grandma and let's go see what the goats are doing. And so grandma now can enjoy the grandchildren enjoying the sheep or the play yard or the butterfly garden, or let's go to the bistro for a cup of coffee together. There's all these excuses to do stuff that would be normal in a person's life, irrespective of the diagnosis.
Yeah, I just got to imagine for the kids and the grandkids and everybody, like you said, visiting and having that experience that would have to just be so rewarding and fulfilling. Yeah. So in writing the book, Avandell, Reimagining the Dementia Experience, so your vision and what you're doing is so huge and encompassing. You've written a book about it. Can you tell us a little bit more about the book specifically?
Yeah, well, the book is really about the journey that, I've been the CEO at UMC for 11 years. And the book is really about our journey in terms of how we got to Avandell. We knew early on that, the need for dementia care, we wanted to do it well. And we really had this whole notion of instead of treating behaviors, we wanted to treat the distress, and how that was really a game changer in terms of the programmatic piece of it. And so we instituted that, and we wrote a curriculum, and we did all the training with our own staff here at UMC. And actually, our corporate director of Tapestries, which is what our branded memory care product is, actually got the curriculum certified by the Alzheimer's Association. Nice. And so now we're able to teach not only our own people, but we're able to teach anyone else outside of the organization who'd want to do it. And so when it came time to say, all right, how do we take our current situation to the next level? So, we run pretty typical memory support communities, 20 to 25 people in each neighborhood. But, 20, it's not normal to live with 25 people, right?
Right.
And that's why when we came to the notion of Avandell, that's why 7 came out to be the number, because our staffing ratios are usually typically 1 to 7. So we said, let's make the house 7. It's more of a family scale that's more normal. And so the book is really about, UMC's journey into looking at the options that are available out there, looking at what we did, how we developed the Avandell or the Tapestries model, and then what was the next step. And that's about the same time my wife and I had gone to Amsterdam, and we were inspired by the village, the concept. And I think what's going to happen at the end of the day, once this is built, people are going to find out about it. They're going to say, if that's where I want to have mom or dad live, if this is the road we have to go down. And I think the rest of the industry is going to want to come and figure out to learn about how to do that.
This is where I want to live one day. I'm
Right.
going to give this book to my daughter.
Because part of our UMC mission is not only to take care of ourselves, but to be leaven for the industry. How do we do something that is not so specific to what UMC is doing, but how can it be replicated? Because we basically want to be able to give away the quote unquote technology of Avandell. So, because I'd love to see, because I believe that Avandell is the most important project in senior living that's happened in memory care in the last 30 years.
Yeah, I can see how this is truly something revolutionary and really just changing perspectives that can have a permeating effect.
And I think once people find out about it and they come and learn about it and they start to replicate it, I think it has the potential to impact care for the next generation of people who are going to be dealing with a dementia diagnosis. And so it's truly exciting for me. It's, the project is bigger than I am, which is a good thing. I mean, any CEO would like to have a project it's bigger than they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's got to be so fulfilling to know that you are part of setting this in motion, such as you have. I'm curious, Larry, in writing the book and taking that journey, was there anything that you found out along the way of your writing journey about yourself? Anything that was eye-opening for you as a human being?
Well, that I could even write a book, right?
Right.
I'm sure my high school English teacher is sort of saying, "Oh my gosh, this guy wrote a book." But it's been an opportunity to me to really reflect on, how we got to what we're doing and why we're doing it. And it also sort of pushed our thinking since we had to reduce it to writing, as to, exactly what we're doing it and why we're doing it. And it just sort of amplified to me the importance of the project that we're working on.
Yeah. It has that it takes a village mentality associated with it.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it takes also a village now to help those with dementia live a happy and dignified life.
Exactly. Okay, Larry, your answer cannot be Oprah. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, but you cannot say Oprah.
Okay.
If you could hand your book to anybody in the world right now with the guarantee that they would indeed read it, who would you hand it to? And you can't say Oprah.
I can't say Oprah.
Everybody says Oprah.
I would want to hand it to a family member who's struggling with dealing with a dementia diagnosis.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that everybody who is dealing with just that or is just wondering about what the future might hold. I know personally we have dementia in the family. It's on my mother's side. So it's always in the back of my head. Someday, is that what happened to grandma? Is that going to happen to me? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what makes your book so powerful and important for people to read right now. Any thoughts of down the road? Is there a second book? Are you going to be doing any more writing? What's in the future for you, Larry?
As I said, I think once people find out about the concept, I think there's an opportunity to help people, do their own version of Avandell. Because, as I said, the concept is not so unique that it only can be built in New Jersey. It can be built anywhere. And we've sort of designed that intentionally. And like I said, we sort of want to give away the technology and help people be able to plant these everywhere. So I think there's a whole consulting division in the future for the company to help people do that.
I can definitely see you consulting. That makes perfect sense. Now, when is it going to be built? Do you have an end date? What's that?
Yeah, so we're still, we have a site, and we're dealing with the township on those permitting and those kinds of things, and we're dealing, and because in the United States we have to be licensed by the Department of Health, and so it'll be an assisted living product. So we're dealing with the Department of Health, we're dealing with the site, and we're sort of going through all these other preliminary logistics. But beyond that, it's designed. We're ready to go into construction. And fortunately, now we're coming out of pandemic. The cost of lumber is coming down, so that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So I would say, within a year or two, we should be doing something.
Excellent. Okay, Larry, can you tell people where they can go to find out more, find the book?
Yeah. So we on our United Methodist Communities website, umcommunities.org. We do have an Avandell page that gives some good information about what we're planning. And then, of course, the book is available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Excellent. Larry Carlson, author of Avandell? Is that how you say it?
Avandell, yes.
Avandell? Okay. Yep. Avandell, Reimagining the Dementia Experience, a must-read book for old and young folks alike, because, again, this is something that impacts so many people in this world. Thank you for joining us, Larry. I appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Make sure you're ringing that bell and subscribing and always staying up to date on the latest shows from Books That Make You. Also, don't forget, we are a proud supporter and presenter of The Book Fest. That is thebookfest.com. That happens in the spring and the fall, and it has something for everyone, whether you're a reader and you can find panels and conversations on day 1. Or a writer, there's panels on the art and the craft of writing on day 2. Make sure you check that out. And curated content from past book fests is on the YouTube channel as well. So if you're a reader or a writer, please check that out as well. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.